So here we go, Reese Rambles, episode 17. And what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, I mean, I suppose for a start, it means that I've managed to commit to doing this 17 weeks in a row, which is great. Yay me. I'm not quite sure if the quality has improved as the weeks have gone on. I guess only you, the listener, can be the judge of that. But the fact that you're still listening, I suppose, is a pretty good indication. Also, 17 is a prime number, so it's only divisible by 1 and by itself. But that's not something that we mark here with any kind of special episode content or anything like that. It's just a thing. And later on in this one, I'm going to talk about a big change, a really big change that I've made to my YouTube channel, a big decision that I've made, which could, in the short term, it's had quite a massive negative impact. And going forward, it means that I'm barely going to be earning any money from my channel. So it could well end up being a very stupid decision on my part. But hopefully longer term, it will be a good thing. But I'm going to mention that now and then not talk about it again until the end of the episode, because that's what the pro podcasters do. They save the most interesting story of the week until last. They tease you right at the beginning, and then, of course, you're compelled to listen to the entire episode. And as Reese Rambles develops into a more professional podcast, I think it's only fair that I start doing that as well. But first, let's do the preamble. So preamble is the bit where I talk about stuff that I've talked about in the past and just give updates and whatnot. And of course, everyone's talking about the Amiga Global Alliance again, which is the thing that I discussed in the previous ramble. So website set up by David Pleasance, who was the UK managing director of Commodore. And he started a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter to raise £15,000 to get this new Amiga portal thing offline. You can listen to the previous episode if you're not familiar with that story. But the important thing is, or kind of the pertinent thing that is obviously worthy of an update, is the fact that they stopped it. He's actually put a stop to the Kickstarter, and everyone who's backed it so far will not be going forward and paying their commitment to that. Obviously, the way that Kickstarter works is that people don't get charged until the project's successfully backed anyway. But yeah, so that's that. Now, I had a comment on my previous ramble that I want to highlight anyway, which was from Dataset User, who is a long-time listener and, listener to the rambles and viewer of my YouTube channel. It's a name that's come up quite a lot over the years, so thank you ever so much for your ongoing support and viewership. But Dataset User raises a very important point. Basically, and I've heard this story from a few people, basically they've ordered a book from David Pleasance in the past and not received it, raised a PayPal dispute to try to get the money back, and Mr. Pleasance has been in touch and said, please cancel your dispute. I will send you a different book as, by way of compensation. And they didn't receive that book either. And I've heard this story before, and there was something that I actually alluded to it in my previous ramble, and it was something I was going to talk about, and then it just completely slipped my mind. But the books that I talked about that he's published in the past were all Kickstarter crowdfunding campaigns in their own right. And there's an awful lot of people who haven't received the latest book. And of course, he's forged ahead with this new campaign, and he's offering that same book as one of the rewards for this campaign. Now, when you have a previous campaign on Kickstarter, I keep saying that, on Kickstarter, which hasn't been sort of fully realised and fully completed, when you haven't delivered all of the deliverables, it's actually against their terms of service to start another one. You have to have completed projects under your belt. And someone did point out that that Pleasance had actually set up a second account on Kickstarter, which is very, very much against their terms of service, as a way of getting around this kind of having an incomplete campaign under his belt. So very naughty on his part. And I'm hearing lots of stories of people who've backed his stuff in the past and not received it, which is, not cool. Not cool. Anyway, he's put out an official announcement just announcing that the project has been cancelled. And one thing I didn't realise is that he'd actually taken like physical pledges from people at events as well. And he's been doing this for about a year. And I did see a video from one of the Amiga user groups where they'd obviously given him some money towards this project, and he'd given them a certificate, like a founder edition backers physical certificate, and they'd actually set fire to it. yeah, so I guess that sums up how they feel about it. I'll see if I can find it and if I can link it in the usual places, but might be a hard one to track down. I think it may have been on Twitter. But anyway, his reason for cancelling the project is basically he's blaming everyone else again. He's blamed all of his friends, all of these people, these early backers, just saying that nobody told him it was a bad idea, so he went ahead with it. All the same people whose names and faces that he's put on the campaign page itself without their permission. The people he had vague conversations with a year ago about setting up this website, and they kind of vaguely said, "Yeah, it sounds like a good idea." Apparently they should have been much more strong in their opposition to his idea. Apparently he didn't mention to any of them that he was going to set up a Kickstarter campaign and ask for 15 grand, or that it was going to be a paid subscription thing going forward. So I think they're very important details. Maybe the plan changed at the last minute, or who knows. Anyway, this isn't one of those negative podcasts that rambles on about drama and stirs the pot. Essentially, it's the community have drawn a line under it and moved on from it. But obviously it couldn't go without being mentioned here. So very interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to try and go ahead. It kind of implies that he's not going to go ahead with setting up anything similar. But yeah, I guess we shall see. So, in another update to a previous story, somewhat. A few weeks ago, I talked about McDonald's releasing a limited edition Tetris chicken nugget, exclusively in China as a promotional thing to celebrate the anniversary of chicken nuggets, apparently. And one of the channels that I watch, I believe it's called Taki Udon, I'll link to that in the usual places, has received their nugget. They're actually based over there, and did a review on it. And apparently, other than some sort of build quality control related issues with one of the units that they received, the nugget seems to work, and it looks playable, and it's Tetris on a chicken nugget as advertised. But that's not the update that I wanted to talk about. No, McDonald's have been up to some more retro gaming shenanigans, and this is something that the whole world can enjoy this time. So apparently it is Grimace's birthday, and if you're not familiar with Grimace, the McDonald's character, because they don't really do the character stuff anymore, do they? I guess the whole marketing junk food to kids has kind of gone a bit out of fashion. But Grimace is the big purple dude, and that I'm sure we all remember from our childhood. And this game is themed around Grimace's birthday. Now, the game has been made by a chap called Tom Lockwood, who goes by the name of Gumpy Function, and has developed Game Boy Color games in the past. Some apparently excellent Game Boy Color games, homebrew games. And by all accounts, this game's actually really good. I haven't checked it out myself yet, but you can go online and you can play it in a browser. And of course, I will link to that. But Perhaps more surprisingly, it's been released as an actual ROM file. So if you have a flash cart for your Game Boy Color, or I guess it runs on the Game Boy Advance as well, you can copy the file across to your flash cart and you can slap it in your Game Boy, and you can play Grimace's Birthday, a brand new Game Boy Color game in 2023. So I'm very much looking forward to checking that out. I was going to, well, I was quite tempted to, because I have a Game Boy Color with a nice modded screen and stuff, and I was quite tempted to sort of check it out and maybe record myself sort of playing that and record my first impressions, and maybe put that up on YouTube or something somewhere. I think I've decided against that just because I've got too many projects on the go. Like yesterday I recorded a video for the main channel, which was actually one that's kind of jumped the queue, even though I was kind of partway through working on another video. And I also recorded a supporter exclusive video that's gone out on Patreon and Coffee and to YouTube channel members. I'm doing those regularly now. I think that's the fourth one that I've done. Not trying to plug my Patreon or anything like that, but just trying to provide some more value for those people who financially supported the channel. And of course, today I'm sat here recording this ramble. So as far as output is concerned and creating content as a content creator, I've got my hands pretty full at the moment. And of course, I've got my day job as well. But I do this because I do enjoy it a lot. Putting this stuff out there, and you guys seem to appreciate it as well. So that's kind of what motivates me to carry on doing this. But yeah, I think taking on another video with this Game Boy game might be a step too far. Although, hey, you know me, I'm quite impulsive. it might happen. But yes, I will link to that if you want to check it out for yourself and give it a play. But yeah, by all accounts, actually a really fun game. And from the screenshots I've seen, yeah, it looks really professional and really good. Very odd decision by McDonald's. But hey, I suppose embracing the retro community makes sense, because we all grew up with McDonald's in those days when marketing junk food to children was a lot more socially acceptable. So just another bit of tech news for this week, and I just wanted to mention this because it's affected some stuff that I'm sure a lot of people are personally involved with who listen to this, and that is the Reddit thing. Now, I promise this is relevant, but I'm going to tell you a little story first. Obviously, evidently, as I'm sure you're aware, unless you've been living under a rock, there's a chap called Elon Musk, and obviously he's the Tesla guy and the SpaceX guy, and richest man in the world, I think. And he bought Twitter a while back. I have no idea why he bought Twitter, but he decided that buying Twitter would be a good idea. And he caused a lot of controversy, and a lot of people left the platform, and a lot of advertisers left the platform, and their revenue was massively down. And he decided to introduce a load of paywalled stuff and, paying for certain privileges and certain access and stuff like that, which, of course, fed into the whole thing. And it seems to be accelerating the decline of Twitter. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's going to be going anywhere in the short term. But certainly it's had a massive knock-on effect with their user engagement and their revenue and everything else. And Twitter is kind of a shadow of what it was. When he bought it, I think it's been valued at less than half of what he originally bought it for, which is not really what you want to do when you spend billions and billions on an online business. But there you go. But anyway, it seems that some very, very intelligent person at Reddit has seen all of this going on and said, hey, we should get in on this action. This has been a really sound business decision on Mr. Musk's part, and we should do this too. So we're going to start charging for API access. So Reddit provides an API, which is a way for third-party apps to plug into it and interact with it in certain ways. And the Reddit site itself is made up of individual communities that are all kind of themed around certain topics, and it's all run by the users. These communities are created by the users and run and kind of moderated by Reddit users. And then people log onto the site every day to see what the latest posts are on there and kind of comment on them and provide their opinions and everything else. And Reddit have said all this user-created content, people can't have this for free anymore, even though we didn't create it. So we're going to start charging third-party API access. And one of the biggest clients that uses this access, I think it's called Apollo. I admit I didn't really do much research into this story, it's a third-party Reddit client called Apollo, and they've basically said that if these changes come in, it's going to cost us something like $20 million a year for our app, which we can't afford. The app doesn't make any money. And also, as well as kind of these third-party clients, there are moderation and admin tools. Like I said, these communities on Reddit are run by individual users, and over the years, people have made very useful tools for managing these communities, which use the same Reddit API, and none of those can afford to carry on if this change comes in. So all of the big communities on Reddit decided to have a blackout in protest. And Monday and Tuesday this week, it was quite incredible to see. There was a site that was actually set up to track it. Pretty much all of the big subreddits just went dark. They set their communities to private, which meant that nobody could access them. And such was the impact on Reddit itself that it actually broke the website for half a day, which I think you'd think would get the point across. Unfortunately, the management at Reddit have now said, it's just a 48-hour thing, it'll pass and people will get over it, and we're just going to forge ahead and do this thing anyway. So who knows what those communities are going to do on Reddit now in response to that. Maybe they'll shut down it again. Of course, if they do, they're going to drive users away, which isn't ideal. But then if this change comes in, that's also going to drive users away. So who knows? As we know, the kind of modern playbook for these Silicon Valley companies is to make a big announcement of something really stupid that's going to really annoy their users. The users protest, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, actually, no, we're not going to do that. We've listened to your feedback and we've changed our minds." Like Twitch recently did with their advertising changes that they brought in that I didn't talk about, and I'm not going to talk about because I'm not a big Twitch user. And you make a big announcement, all the users say, "Oh no, this is stupid, don't do that," and then the company says, "Okay, sorry, that was a silly thing to say. Let's not do that." And then over time, they very gradually bring those policies in anyway, because they were going to do it anyway. But Reddit haven't taken that particular path. They've decided, no, we're just going to, we're just going to be upfront about the fact that we're going to do this, and your petty little protests aren't going to change our minds. So who knows what's going to happen there? But yeah, really interesting to see the whole of Reddit taken down by this big protest this week, and just something I wanted to acknowledge, really. Right, and finally on to perhaps what is the biggest tech news story of the week, the one that I alluded to right at the beginning of all this, and that is the story of how I killed my YouTube channel. But first, I'm going to take you right back to the very beginning and paint a picture in your mind, because that's what I do. So around a year ago, I was chatting to someone online. I can't remember who it was, but they recommended a channel to me, and I can't remember what the channel was either. So fantastic start to this story. But it was a chap who was going to scrapyards and things. If someone lets me know in the comments or on Discord or whatever, I will put a link. I'll put an update wherever in the notey bits and the description and whatnot. But it was a guy who was going to scrapyards, and he was getting broken electronics and mechanical things and fixing them. And it was a really, really interesting channel, a really interesting guy. And I basically binged a load of his videos, and they were really, really sort of fascinating. And he was starting to get into lithium batteries, LiFePO4 batteries, the type that he used in, solar stuff and electric cars and whatnot. And essentially, the reason these batteries tend to fail is because they're made up of lots of individual cells, and if one or a small number of cells fails, it can actually mean that the entire battery is then scrap. And as far as the end user is concerned, the battery doesn't work, so they just chuck it away. And what you can do, because there's a very small number of sort of industry standard types of cells, is you can buy these batteries that have hundreds of these cells in. You can test all of the cells individually, find out which ones are broken, and you can just drop in some new ones, and it fixes the entire battery. And it's a really good way to get very cheap batteries if you're sort of qualified to work safely with the lithium-ion stuff, which can be quite dangerous if you mess it up. And anyway, this guy's channel, he was kind of just started getting into that, and I was really interested in that, and I was thinking, how cool would it be to build your own batteries and that kind of stuff. And of course, inevitably, off the back of that, I started getting recommended solar videos about solar power, because of the whole crossover between the lithium battery stuff and the solar stuff. And I really, really got into it, and I thought, I want to power something by solar power, because it looks really cool. So I went and I bought a kit made by a company called EcoWorthy, and I thought, this might be of interest to my viewers. I'll set the old camera up and I'll record all of this and see if I can make a video out of it, which I did. And if you're a regular viewer of the channel and a regular listener, you'll know where this story went. So that initial video, I didn't really know what I was doing. I bought what was essentially not a very good kit with a couple of bits that were actually quite sort of rubbish and a bit dangerous. And very naive me went in and built it all and made this video and was like, oh, look, I've put this solar kit together. And then YouTube decided to show it to nearly 1 million people, over 800,000 people. And of course, I had endless comments and things from people. And I ended up having to release an update saying, yes, I fixed this bit, I fixed that bit. Sorry, I said this. I know it's not right, but I wasn't expecting half the world to watch this video. And then I got a lot of feedback off that second video, and that one got like over 100,000 views. And then I got sponsors starting to get in touch. One of those sponsors was EcoFlow, and they sent me a couple of their battery pack things to review, and I wanted them anyway to use as part of my setup. So rather than buying them, I thought I'll make some videos about them, and I'll kind of integrate those into my setup. And it just became this sort of self-fulfilling thing. And oddly enough, I was listening to, I'm a big fan of the Colin and Samir podcast, which is like a podcast for professional YouTubers and content creators. And weirdly enough, I was actually listening to an episode this morning with a guy called Tim Ferriss, who apparently is quite big in the podcasting world. He's also like a big like angel investor in Silicon Valley and stuff as well. I was kind of vaguely aware of the name. I think from what they were saying, he wrote a book a few years ago called The 4-Hour Work Week, which is about setting up passive income and that kind of stuff, which I was also kind of vaguely aware of. But he has his own kind of podcasting and a media empire as well. And he came out with this quote, which was, "We get shaped by our audiences." And the context that he was talking in was basically that he was covering a lot of like crypto stuff that was going on, a couple of years ago when crypto was massive, cryptocurrencies and NFTs and that kind of stuff. And he was covering a lot of that just because everyone in Silicon Valley was talking about it. And, all of the companies that he was kind of investing with or investing in were interested in getting kind of on board with it. And he attracted a huge audience that were basically only interested in crypto. And, he was saying that obviously kind of interest in that all of a sudden just dropped off. And he basically lost quite a big chunk of his audience because there was no real news. He was fed up with talking about it, ended up talking about other stuff. He said that he moved on to something else and that actually got a really big response as well, and that he was quite lucky in that respect. But that he kind of inadvertently ended up building this huge audience around his podcast and stuff that were only interested in the world of crypto because that's just what he happened to be talking about. And that was that came along at exactly the right time to kind of reassure me that I'd done the right thing. So anyway, what have I done? I've delisted all of the solar videos. Yes. So if you go onto Social Blade, which is a website that tracks all of the social networks and YouTube and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and look at the ranking for my channel, I now have a rank of D, which is the worst rank that you can get. And the reason for that becomes apparent when you click on the page, and there's basically been one day this week when my channel managed to get minus 1,049,716 views. How do you get a negative number of views? Well, you take videos offline, and then those views, of course, don't count towards the total number of views for your channel. And the total number of views for my channel is, I haven't actually checked the specific number, but it was something like 1.5 million, just over 1.5 million. So I've lost 2/3 of the views on my channel in one fell swoop by, as a direct result of a decision that I have made to remove all of these videos. They're still there. I haven't deleted them. I could put them public again in the future. And I want to talk about why I decided to do that, because there's a lot of people with their own kind of small YouTube channels who would really sort of kill for those views. They're like, how could you be so stupid? You really need to double down on this solar stuff and make more videos about the solar stuff. And I did. I tried. I did the EcoFlow reviews. I did an update video. There is one and only solar video which has been left up, which was the most recent update, which I did kind of as a summary of how my whole system works and how I put it together. And in the back of my mind, I was actually planning for this specific eventuality when I made that video, because it kind of ties everything in. It's kind of done in a way where it is on topic for my channel, which is a much better fit for my audience than those earlier videos were. But yeah, essentially, Control-Alt-Reese is a retro computing channel. I fix old computers and play old games and that kind of stuff. That's my thing. That's what I've wanted it to be from day one. And every single day I was logging on to YouTube Studio, which is obviously the back end that we get for YouTube, and seeing those solar videos at the top of my analytics as the most popular videos day in, day out. Oh, woe is me for getting all those views. Isn't it awful? And, I'd go into the comment section. I've actually stopped looking at the channel comments, because there were just hundreds and hundreds of comments on these solar videos, mainly either from people in the solar community. Some of them were supportive. Some of them were telling me I was doing it wrong. And an awful lot of comments from people who just hate anything to do with renewable energy with a passion, and were just dumping it all on me because they saw solar videos being recommended on their YouTube homepage, and they were like, oh, I'm going to teach this guy a lesson by clicking on it and telling him what a stupid idea solar power is. And it's like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. It's not something that I'm passionate about. It's just a thing that I built that happens to be attached to my house. So oddly enough, earlier this week, I was thinking about Daniel Radcliffe, who was the guy who played Harry Potter in the original Harry Potter films. And I promise this is going somewhere. And, you know, he's a really talented actor. He's done some really big, important projects in the years since he was Harry Potter, the big Broadway stage shows and that kind of stuff. And, you know, just kind of wants to get his latest projects out there and sort of get on with his career as an actor. And yet every single interview that he does, all they want to talk about is Harry Potter. Something that he did years ago as a kid that he's well and truly moved on from. And of course, you know, he understands that the only reason he is as famous as he is because of that. But yeah, you know, everywhere he goes, he's the Harry Potter guy. And I was starting to feel the same, you know, not wanting to compare myself to Daniel Radcliffe, but he was very good in that Weird Al movie, wasn't he? If you haven't seen that, that's well worth a watch, just as an aside. But yeah, you know, was I starting to become like the Daniel Radcliffe of retro? You know, people emailing me all the time, asking me questions about solar power, and you know, people chatting to me and about solar power, and it's like, it's not really my thing. You know, it's a thing that I've sort of played with once, and yeah, I made a couple of videos about because I played with it a bit more and made some improvements and stuff. But yeah, you know, Control.Reese is a retro computing channel. It's not a solar channel. And to have the whole thing just completely dominated by this solar stuff was just, I wasn't happy, to be honest. I just didn't like I didn't like the situation. And it has been a tough decision to make because, of course, obviously I've got all of those views off the back of it. I've got loads of subscribers off the back of it. And of course, as a channel, you're entirely judged based on the number of views and the number of subscribers that you have. So, of course, it's quite a big... I don't lose the subscribers, of course, but, you know, if I never release anything solar ever again, that's like half of my audience that aren't interested in my videos anymore. And also a pretty poor decision on my part financially as well, because I have Amazon affiliate links to all of the bits and pieces in my solar setup, you know, listed under all of those videos. And people click on those links. You know, I actually make money. I make... something like 60 quid a month out of those Amazon affiliate links. And I have referral links to stuff like the EcoFlow stuff and the eco-worthy stuff. I don't know if I've ever made any money out of those, but you know, there's the potential there. There's the ad revenue, obviously, with those views accounting for those videos accounting for 2/3 of the views on my channel. They were also accounted for 2/3 of the ad revenue from my channel. And, you know, I was bringing in a pretty decent amount, you know, £100 plus a month from YouTube ads, from pretty much purely from those videos. And now I've had to say goodbye to all of that. And you may think from the way that I'm talking that I'm actually starting to regret this decision and think that it was a bad idea. But you know what? It's been a real weight off, and you know, a real weight off my shoulders. You know, I can ignore EcoFlow when they keep emailing me saying, do you want to review this? Do you want to review that? I can ignore all the other solar companies. You know, I'm not going to touch any of that stuff ever again. And I can get on with my retro computing projects, powered by solar, by the way. You know, I'm sat here recording this. My, you know, it's bright and sunny outside. My solar panels are generating the power that is powering this recording and powering all the other stuff that I've been working on this week, as it always does. But yeah, it's just a thing, you know, it's not my entire identity anymore. And I'm quite pleased that I've finally made that decision. Whether it'll come back to bite me in the long run and kill my channel off, I'm not sure. As far as views are concerned, they've about halved. It's pretty much exactly halved, which is quite interesting because, like I say, they were accounting for about 2/3 of my views. So some of my other videos have kind of picked up and are being pushed more by YouTube as a result of those videos no longer being available. Whether that will actually, you know, kind of adjust itself over time back up to that same level, and YouTube will be recommending the videos that I actually want it to recommend rather than those, you know, that would be absolutely fantastic. That would be ideal. But hey, you know, even with half the views, I'm getting 600 odd views a day on my channel, which is fine. It's all on, you know, it's all on videos that I'm actually interested in and passionate about. Anyway, that's all been a bit of a rant, hasn't it? But thank you very much for listening. And as always, do let me know your thoughts. Perhaps I've been a massive idiot, which isn't, you know, isn't without precedent. And yeah, hope you have a wonderful weekend. So subscribe to Control.Reese, as always, and see you next time. Bye.